Good morning, class. I hope you are all doing well and ready to study our next topic. So, I want you to imagine that you just woke up. You can hear your alarm ringing and you're moving around in the bed, and then you realize you have to wake up for the day. So, you get up and you realize there's something funny outside your window. So, you begin walking towards your window. And right in front of your window, you see a farm with a farmer sowing seeds. And next to him are some cows. And the whole scene is like a farmland. You rub your eyes, wondering whether this is your room or not. And when you look again, you see some chariots racing. You look at them racing and you wonder, am I dreaming? Now, I want to ask you, is this a normal scene outside your window? No, it is not, because this is a scene from the Vedic Civilization, and that's what we are going to be studying today. We'll study the agriculture, economic, religious, and political life of the people of the Vedic civilization. So let's begin. In your previous class, you learnt about the Vedic literature and the day to day life of the people in the Vedic civilization. So today, we'll learn a little more about the people. We'll begin with what they did for work. As you can see, agriculture was the main occupation during the Vedic period. Many oxen were yoked together to plow the fields. The Atharva Veda considers insects, pests, and other animals that destroys crops. They didn't have the pesticides like our farmers do today. Cow dung was used as manure, which is what many farmers use even today. During the Vedic period, animals like horses, cows, and dogs had special importance. People used cows as we do money today. Cows were exchanged for their daily needs. And many times, things that are important get stolen. So the people had to ensure that the cows were guarded. Imagine cows were like how we have money today. When you go to the market, you give money and get whatever you need. But in the Vedic period, they exchanged with cows. And so they had to protect their cows just as how you protect your money today. And now to something exciting. Horses. Horses were also very important during the Vedic period because of their speed. People harnessed their horses to chariots. And if you look closely, you can see that the chariot wheel is very different to the wheels on our cars today. This is because they were lighter and had spokes, so it was easier for the horses to pull them. A horse will definitely not be able to pull one of our cars today. Can you imagine that? Now, you may be thinking that agriculture was the only occupation of that time, but it wasn't. There were many artisans and other occupations as well. They were an important part of the social system. So, the artisans, the carpenters, the weavers, and other occupations together formed a shreni. And a shreni was headed by a shreshti. He was in charge of that shreni. But in time, the status of the artisans became lesser. And the reason for this was the introduction of the Varna system. I'm sure many of you may have already heard about it or know about it. Let's watch a quick video on the four Varnas.
There were 4 varnas or classes based on the skill level and occupation of each person. The varnas were not based on the birth of an individual, only on skill. Well, at least initially. The 4 varnas were Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Shudras. The Brahmins were the priests who performed religious rituals. The Kshatriyas included the royal and the warring classes who fought wars and protected the tribes. The Vaishyas were engaged in agriculture, business, and industry. They produced goods for society. The Shudras served the upper 3 classes. They emerged towards the end of the Rig Vedic period.
Just in case you forgot to mention, the Shudras should not be confused with untouchables who were not present in the society at this point of time. Untouchability came much, much later, around 400 CE.
Well, as if I would forget that. Anyway, thank you. And bye.
So as you saw, during that period, the Varna system wasn't based on which family you were born into, but about what work you did. But as time passed, it came to be determined on the basis of birth, and this gave rise to the caste system. People are treated really horribly due to their caste. Let's watch a quick video on this.
एक दिन गई रही स्कूल झाड़ू लगवाने और वापिस भरवाने फिर कुकुर मारा रहा एक दिन बाबा ने नाई बहावत रहे डंडा मारे
जरूरत कौन फिर से
ये ठाकुर ना छोकरा वो बीजू कोई दिन थे तो एक नहीं काम अब भी हालत थे ने भाई कोई दिन एक ठाकुर सिवानिया ना હોય
ક્યારે તમે સાહેબ ને એવું કીધું સાહેબ આજે અમાર પીરસવું છે
ના કેવી ના તો સાહેબ હોતે હેલો આ શું કરશો આપણે બોલાવું આ ઠાકોર ના તપેલા ના અમાર ખાલી અદે નહીં તમને કે માય ತುಂಬಾ અલગ દેશ સાહેબ બિહાર શા માની બસ એટલા કે બીજા છોકરા બીજી ક્લાસમાં ક્યાં ગયો હા બીજા ક્યાં ગયો બોલા
Doesn't that video make you feel so sad? Those children are just like you, but because of the caste system, they cannot study and are treated so badly in schools. You must remember, we are all made equally in God's eyes. Make friends with everyone and include everyone wherever you go, because everyone deserves a right. Correct? Now moving on to our lesson. Look at these beautiful beaches. I am sure you would say, "Wow, teacher, this is the perfect life. I want to go and live here." But during the Vedic period, they had a different understanding of what a perfect life was. So let's understand some more about it. There were 4 stages or ashramas from birth to death. Let's watch this video to understand some more.
There are 4 stages of life. These stages are called ashramas. The first stage is the stage of brahmacharya. It is the period of formal education for the celibate student who leaves his house to live with the guru. The brahmacharya acquires knowledge of scriptures, science, philosophy, self-discipline, and logic. He pays the Guru Dakshina before leaving to live the life of dharma. Grihastha is the second stage, which begins with marriage. The grihastha is the householder who raises a family and leads the household. The grihastha produces food and wealth to support his family. This stage is considered the most important of all the stages. The third stage is the stage of vanaprastha. It is the stage of retirement. It is the phase of transition where the vanaprastha hands over all the responsibilities to the next generation and retires to spend his life in the forest. Sannyas is the last stage marked by renunciation. The sannyasi devotes himself to God and renounces all material pleasures, desires, and expectations. He moves towards spiritual development and the attainment of moksha.
So, to recap, these are the 4 ashramas that the people of the Vedic civilization followed. Now, I want to ask you, are you Hindu, Muslim, Sikh, Christian, or any other religion? During the Vedic times, the people worshipped nature. They worshipped the sun, wind, rain, lightning, storms, and rivers. People put offerings into the yajna fire to please these gods. The fire was called yajna, and these offerings that they put into the yajna fire were called havi. Initially, the rites of the yajna were very simple, but as time went by, it kept getting more difficult, and so the importance of priests increased. And so, even today, we have priests performing several of our rites. Moving on, you all may have studied about the cycle of nature, how we have monsoons, then winter, then summer, and then monsoon again. The Vedic people called this cycle Rita. The Vedic people thought the life cycle of all living beings is a part of the cycle of nature. If there is a disturbance in this cycle, it leads to a disaster. And so they said that everyone should be careful not to let this disaster happen. No one should break the law of nature, and following these rules was to follow dharma. We have now studied the agriculture, economic, and religious life of the Vedic people. And so now we are going to understand the political system. The Vedic people lived in a village, and each village had a head known as Gramani. A group of villages formed a Vish, whose head was called a Vishpati, and a group of Vish formed a Jana. When these Janas settled into a specific region, it came to be known as a Janapad. The head of the Jana was known as Raja, and his main duties were to protect the people, collect taxes, and run the administration effectively. Now, can one person run a whole village by himself? No, he needs help. And so the king appointed various officers. The Purohit is the priest, and the Senapati of the army were officers of special importance. The officer who collected taxes was known as Bhagduk. Bhag means share. There were 4 institutions who guided the king: Sabha, Samiti, Vidhat, and Jana. People of the state participated in the working of these institutions as well. Women participated in the working of Sabha and Vidhat. The Sabha consisted of senior citizens of the state whereas the Samiti was a general body of people. In due course of time, the religious stream based on the Vedas, Smritis, Puranas, and local traditions came to be known as Hinduism. Hence, a lot of this language will be familiar to you. We learned a lot today, didn't we? So now let's have a fun quiz to see who can remember the most answers. First one. What was the main occupation of the people during the Vedic period? A. Teaching, B. Stitching, C. Farming, or D. Pottery? The answer is C. Farming. If you got that wrong, here's the second question for you to try. Who did the Vedic people worship? A. Lord Ganesha, B. Nature, C. The Raja, or D. The Guru? The answer is B. Nature. And now for one last try. The village head was called A. Gramini, B. Jana, C. Vishpati, or D. Purohit? The answer is Gramini. I hope you got those three answers right. In case you didn't, you can go back and watch the video. For homework, you have to read pages 17, 18 and 19 of your history textbook. And a bonus activity that you can do, you can draw your own Vedic village to represent all the people that we learnt of today. Keep learning and keep studying. I'll see you in the next class. Bye.